Here's a situation every DFW property owner eventually runs into. An application from a tenant comes in. The tenant has a 720 credit score. Their income checks out. On paper, the tenant looks great. So do you approve them? Not so fast. A credit score is one data point. Tenant screening is 5 data points. And if you're only looking at the credit number, you're missing the questions that actually matter. Eviction history, rental references, criminal background, and whether your whole process holds up under fair housing law. Approving the wrong tenant can cost DFW property owners $8,000 to $10,000, sometimes more, once you add up the eviction process, lost rent, repairs, and turnover. I'm Michael with Darling Property Management, and in this video, I'm walking you through our complete tenant screening process. Every step we run for every property we manage in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Let's get into it. Here's the math people usually don't do until after a bad tenant placement. In Texas, even a smooth eviction, uncontested, no delays, still runs $3,000 to $5,000 in legal fees, court cost, and lost rent during the process. If you add damage, cleaning, and getting the unit back on the market, you're looking at around $8,000 to $12,000 for one bad decision. On a typical North Texas rental at $2,000 a month in rent, that's 4 to 6 months of rental income gone. Most of those bad placements were preventable. They happened because the screening got rushed, or the landlord had a good feeling about someone, or they skipped a step because the unit had been sitting empty too long. Vacancy pressure is the enemy of good screening. The longer a unit sits, the more tempting it is to approve someone you shouldn't. We've built our process to move fast enough that it doesn't create that pressure. At Darling Property Management, we screen on 5 criteria. Every applicant, no exceptions. The first is income. Gross monthly income of at least 3 times the monthly rent. So for an $1,800 rent means that they need to show $5,400 a month in income. This keeps rent from consuming more than about a third of take-home pay, which is roughly where things start to get uncomfortable for most people. The second is credit score. We prefer a 650 minimum, but there's more to the story. The score is just the starting point, and we look at the full report. The third is eviction history. None in the past 5 years, and we draw a hard line. The fourth is criminal history. We look at it, but there's no blanket bans. Each case gets evaluated individually per HUD guidance. The fourth is rental references. We have to have 2 positive references from previous landlords, and yes, we actually call them. These criteria work not just because they're reasonable, but because they're consistent. Every applicant gets the same criteria in writing before they pay an application fee. That's what keeps you on the right side of fair housing law. For income, we start with pay stubs, the last 30 days. We also accept bank statements showing consistent deposits, offer letters for someone who just started a new job, and for self-employed applicants, 2 years of tax returns plus 3 months of bank statements. One thing a lot of property owners miss: you cannot deny someone because their income comes from a voucher. Section 8, disability income, Social Security. If the math works at 3 times the rent, it works. Turning someone away based on where their money comes from puts you in fair housing territory fast. We run credit and background reports through TransUnion and Equifax directly via our property management software. The data comes from the bureau, not whatever an applicant typed on the form. Before any of this happens, every applicant gets a copy of our written screening criteria. Texas Property Code Section 92 requires you to give the disclosure before you collect an application fee. We give it, they sign it, it goes in the file. A credit score tells you one thing. The full report tells you the story. Someone with a 680 credit score who's been on time for 2 straight years is a very different risk from someone with a 680 score and 3 collections in the past 12 months. It's the same score, but very different picture. On credit, we flag recent eviction judgments, patterns of missed payments, and debt that seems out of proportion to their income. We also look at the type of debt. A medical collection from 5 years ago tells a different story than a string of missed car payments and maxed out credit cards. And compensating factors matter. Strong rental history with one old collection, that moves the needle. A recent pattern of financial problems across multiple accounts, that's a different conversation. For criminal background, HUD is clear that blanket policies excluding everyone with any criminal record can create disparate impact on protected classes and expose landlords to fair housing liability. We don't do blanket bans. We look at the offense, when it happened, and what the applicant's record has looked like since. We also only consider convictions, not arrests. An arrest without a conviction is not evidence of anything, and treating it like it is will get you into trouble. A lot of landlords assume evictions show up on a credit report. Sometimes they do, when a landlord got a judgment and the bureau was notified, but the filing itself often doesn't appear on credit at all, which means a credit check alone can completely miss an eviction. We pull a nationwide eviction report as a separate search. No evictions in the past 5 years is our standard. When something shows up, we look at the details. What county, what year, was it non-payment or a lease violation? Was it dismissed? And make a call based on the full picture. References are where a lot of self-managing property owners cut corners. We do not. We call previous landlords, not email, phone. An email gives someone the chance to say they were fine and leave it there. On the phone, people talk. 4 questions we always ask. Did they pay on time? Did they give proper notice when they moved out? What was the condition of the property when they left? And would you rent to them again? That last one is a big one. The last one matters. A landlord who had a good tenant says yes without hesitation. Someone who hedges, goes quiet, or pivots to I can't really say is telling you something without saying it. We require 2 references. First-time renters with no rental history aren't automatically disqualified, but we ask for something extra: a cosigner, a larger security deposit, or extended financial documentation. Something where the numbers make up for the missing track record. One more thing on references: verify who you're actually calling. It's not unheard of for applicants to list friends as former landlords. When something feels off, cross-check the name against county property records. Every step of this process has to be fair housing compliant. That sounds complicated, but it's not. The 7 protected classes under federal law: race, color, national origin, religion, sex, familial status, and disability. Texas law covers the same classes. Fair housing compliance comes down to one practice. You apply the same criteria to every applicant without exception. No gut feelings. No, this family just feels right. Objective criteria, documented, applied the same way every time. When we deny someone, we send an adverse action notice under the FCRA within 3 business days. The notice tells them which screening agency we used, their right to a free copy of the report, and their right to dispute any errors. We document the specific criteria that led to the denial. This protects you legally. It also makes your decisions better because you're forced to make them based on facts. So let's go back to that applicant we started with, the one with the 720 credit score. Let's say the income checks out. They're showing 3.5 times rent. Credit report looks solid, but the eviction search comes back with a JP court filing from 3 years ago in Collin County for non-payment. The previous landlord won a judgment. You call that landlord. The landlord confirms the non-payment and says the property wasn't left in great shape, and also says that they wouldn't rent to them again. In that scenario, 2 of 5 criteria have failed: the 5-year eviction history standard and the rental reference requirement. The credit score didn't save them, and it shouldn't. A 720 credit score tells you they've managed credit well. It says nothing about how they treat a rental property or whether they pay rent when things get tight. And that is why the full process matters. No single number tells the whole story. If you're self-managing in DFW, take these 5 criteria and write them down before your next application cycle. Post them in your listing, hand them to every applicant, document every decision you make. That paper trail is what protects you. If you'd rather hand this off to a team that runs it every day, we'd love to talk. We manage rentals across the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and this process is how we protect every property in our portfolio. Click the link in the description for a free rental analysis. We'll tell you what your property should rent for in today's North Texas market and walk you through what working with our team actually looks like. Hit subscribe if you like and want more content like this. We put out videos every week for North Texas property owners, covering market updates, legal walkthroughs, and the practical stuff that actually matters. See you in the next one.